Good evening, YouTube. Welcome back to the channel. This is iMac Sports Another Football video, and today I'm going over my Week 11 Power Rankings for the 2024 NFL season. It's crazy that we are 60% of the way through the season already. I do Power Rankings on the channel every single week, so if you enjoy this video, make sure to come on back next week for another Power Rankings. So let's get right into it. First off, as always, we start off with the dumpster fire. This week, the Raiders have dropped down to number 32. The Saints are number 31, the Dolphins are 30, the Panthers are 29, and the Giants are 28. The Raiders were actually on bye this week, but they dropped down simply because the Saints and the Panthers both won their games. The Saints have finally broken their 7-game losing streak, and the Panthers have won 2 games relatively close to each other. Actually, they may have won 2 weeks in a row, actually. So the Saints and the Panthers have both won their games this week. I'm not going to bump Miami down to 32 just because they haven't played terribly since Tua's return, but they're not. Obviously, they haven't won a game since week 3 or 4. And then the Giants have just recently dropped back down into the dumpster fire with their loss this week against the Panthers. Miami is a confusing team. They didn't play this week, so they didn't move at all. They play tomorrow night against the Rams. I do expect the Rams to win that one because the Rams have been on a tear recently. And even with Tua, the Dolphins have not been too impressive. But if the Dolphins win that game, they'll probably be around 27 or 26 in my updated rankings. With that being said, not much to say about the dumpster fire. The Saints finally got their win. The Panthers are on a bit of a roll, and the Giants are continuing their losing streak with the loss to the Panthers. Moving on to quarterback questions, we have the Jaguars at 27, we have the Browns at 26, the Patriots at 25, the Titans at 24, and the Jets at 23. The Jaguars lost a couple positions this week with the addition of Mac Jones at quarterback. Trevor Lawrence is better than Mac Jones, even though I did have faith that Mac Jones would have a decent season if he did start for the Jaguars at some point. He had 2 picks today. Terrible line. Overall, Mac Jones did not play well. Trevor Lawrence is injured, so it depends on where that situation is going to end up, which will depend on how the Jaguars' season is going to finish out. The Jaguars still only have 2 wins. And although they did beat the Patriots, Mac Jones being at quarterback drops them down a couple extra spots. The Browns are at 26. I did think that once they beat the Ravens, that the Browns might be able to go on a bit of a heater with Jameis Winston. That ended very quickly when they lost last week. They did not play this week. This week they were on bye, but they did move down a couple positions just because the Patriots and the Titans moved up. The Patriots are up to 25. They won this week with their record improving to 3-7. They did lose to the Titans last week in a very close game, but Drake May looks phenomenal. He's looking better and better every single week. Last week against the Titans, the game did end up in overtime, and if we had played it differently, we may have been able to win. But the way that turned out, we did not. Drake May can put the Patriots in position to win games. He plays very well. He looks like he's a veteran quarterback out there, and I'm very excited to see how he turns out. He is 2-3 this season, so we were 1-4 when he doesn't start, and we're 2-3 when he does start. So Drake May does have a pretty solid record. So I'm hoping that it'll continue, and he could potentially even end the season with a positive winning percentage. The Titans are at 24. The Titans have won a couple games recently. They won last week against the Patriots, and then this week they did lose to the Chargers, but they did make it a close game. They lost 27-17. The Titans have 3 wins on the season, and they are slowly improving every single week. Mason Rudolph has had an okay season. He's obviously done better than the quarterback they started off the season with, but he's still obviously a quarterback question. And last but certainly not least, we have the Jets. The Jets got demolished this week by the Cardinals. They lost 31-6. Aaron Rodgers, even with all of the weapons that he has, with Breece Hall, with Devontae Adams, with Allen Lazard, with their second-year wide receiver that's phenomenal, the Jets just can't seem to win games. Not only that, Aaron Rodgers can't even seem to play decent. Today he had 35 pass attempts for 150 yards, which is 4 yards per attempt. That's less than most running backs can get in a week. So yeah, the Jets' offense has been horrendous, and their defense has not been spectacular recently with their loss to the Patriots, and now this week with a 31-point loss to the Cardinals. Moving on to falling down, we got the Cowboys at 22, the Bears at 21, the Colts at 20, and the Seahawks at 19. The Cowboys and Bears both lost this week, although neither of them lost any positions because the teams that are at the bottom are so low that they need to continue to sink down until they can finally reach them. The Bears are on a massive losing streak over the last 5 games. I believe they've lost either 4 or all. I think they've lost 4 of their last 5 games. And the Cowboys are now down to 4-6 with their demolition of a loss this week. The Bears have not beaten any impressive teams so far this season, and this week they played the Patriots, one of the worst teams in the league, and they lost 19-3. The Caleb Williams started off very strong this year. The Caleb Williams sweepstakes is still alive. I still think he's going to have a promising career, but he's had a very dismal second half of the season. I believe he only has, I think he has 0 touchdowns and 1 pick over the last 3 weeks. And the Bears offense just has not been efficient, and they have not been able to score other than DeAndre Swift. The Cowboys. The Cowboys, again, they got demolished this week. They lost 34-6 to the Eagles. Part of that is because Dak Prescott is injured and Cooper Rush is in the game. I don't know how long the Dak Prescott injury is going to be, but either way, the Cowboys, their record is getting worse and worse, and I don't understand exactly where the Cowboys are right now. I think that they could. I don't think that they could make the playoffs at this point. I think that they're almost too far gone to make the playoffs, even if Dak does return and play well. But it's tough. I have not moved either of these teams below the Jets, the Titans, or the Patriots yet, because the Jets, Titans, and Patriots they're rising up, but it's not fast enough. They'll win a game, and then they'll lose a couple, and then it seems like they're kind of in this stretch where they're trying to get better, but it's really not working out. So I need to see some major improvement from those two, but from those 3 before these 2 move down. The Colts lost this week, so they moved below the Seahawks. The Colts have had a pretty solid season. I don't see any issues with them. And then Seattle obviously didn't play this week. Moving on to could be good. We got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at 18. We got the Bengals at 17. We got the Broncos at 16. And we got the Rams at 15. The Rams are 4-4. They have not played yet this week. If they beat the Dolphins tomorrow, they will still stay at number 15. If they lose, then they'll move down to 16 or 17, but they're not going below Tampa. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are 4-6 right now. They have had a whirlwind of the season. They started off very strong. Recently, they've lost, they've lost 4 games in a row. So they started off 4-2. They're now 4-6. Baker Mayfield has a lot of interceptions in the season, and they have a lot of injuries at wide receiver, including Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. Most of their recent struggles have been offensive, and I think that part of that has obviously to do with the missing wide receivers. Until they get those 2 wide receivers back, the Buccaneers are probably going to continue to lose games and continue to lose spots in the power rankings, and the defense has not been enough to overturn these offensive woes. The Bengals are at 17. They lost this week to the Ravens, so they dropped down to 4-6. They almost won. They had a couple chances to win this game. Obviously, it didn't go their way. They tried to avoid overtime by going for 2. They missed the 2-point conversion because the last time they played the Ravens, it did go into overtime, and the Ravens won in overtime. So their goal was to avoid overtime this week. Did not work out. They missed the 2-point conversion. They lost 35-34. They did have a strong advantage to start off the game. They started off 21-7 with a 2-touchdown advantage. The Ravens were able to put up 21 unanswered points and take a lead, which put some pressure on the Bengals. Joe Burrow dealt with it perfectly. He had a phenomenal game. He had 420 yards and 5 touchdowns, but it was not enough to surpass the Ravens' offense. Lamar Jackson is definitely the number 1 candidate for MVP right now. I'd give him around a 70 to 75% chance of winning it currently. He has the new record for passer rating in a season, beating Aaron Rodgers' previous record. He's over 123 now. If he continues to push that further, that would be something else. He currently has 24 touchdowns and 2 picks, so he's on pace to potentially tie or pass Tom Brady's record of touchdown-interception ratio in a season of 28-2. If he gets a couple more touchdowns, he could be tied or better than 28-2. And obviously, he's top 5 in passing yards as well. Actually, I think he's number 2 just after Joe Burrow, and he got some decent rushing numbers as well. Moving on to playoff teams, we got the Falcons at 14. We got the Chargers at 13. We got the 49ers at 12. We got the Texans at 11. And we got the Cardinals at 10. The Falcons have had a pretty solid season this year. They've been up and down. They didn't play this week. They're on bye. But they are 6-4, I believe. And overall, they've had a solid year. Kirk Cousins has had a good October and November. Kirktober has moved into November. And last week he had a strong game. This week they did not play yet. Obviously they had a bye week. The Chargers and 49ers both moved above them in the rankings, mostly because I've recalibrated the 49ers. Now they're winning games. Now they're playing competently, and Christian McCaffrey's back in the equation. I do think that the 49ers are going to continue to win games and rise up in the power rankings. The Chargers, again, they've played a very easy schedule this year. This week they played, I believe, the Jets. The Titans. Again, the Titans are another bad team. The Chargers have not proven they can beat a good team yet, so I'm holding my breath on them for now, but I think 13 is a fair spot. The Texans are at 11. They have lost 2 games in a row with their loss this week to the Lions. It was a tough game. They had a phenomenal start, being up 23-7 at the half. They were not able to hold on, and this has been a common thread this season where the Texans just don't look like themselves. Obviously they're missing wide receivers. They're missing Nico Collins. They're missing Stephon Diggs. They're missing everybody. And CJ Stroud has played phenomenally. But they are down to 6-4, and they are on the downswing as opposed to the upswing. The Cardinals, on the other hand, are 6-4, and they are on the upswing. The Cardinals started off the season with one of the hardest schedules in the league. They lost a couple of tough games, but since then they have proven their abilities, and they've improved to 6-4. Kyler Murray's having a great season. James Conner's having a phenomenal year. Marvin Harrison Jr. is proving his worth as a wide receiver. And the Cardinals are on a 4-game winning streak. They started off 2-4. They're now 6-4. So the Cardinals are having a very strong year. This week they played the Jets. They won 31-6. So yeah, the Jets are not a great team, but a 31-6 win against any team is a phenomenal performance. So Arizona's moving up. I think 10 is very fair for them right now at 6-4. Moving on to the strong contenders, we got the Washington Commanders at 9, the Eagles at 8, the Bills at 7, and the Packers at 6. The Commanders are 7-3. They lost this week to the Steelers. It was a close game. Washington had control of it at the end. They're up 27-21. They had multiple chances to get it to improve their score over 30 points. They were unable to do it. The Steelers defense locked down and stopped them. So they dropped down to number 9 below the Eagles finally. The Eagles have moved up to number 8. They're 7-2, so that division is as tight as it can be, with the number 1 team at 7-2, the number 2 team at 7-3. The Eagles with Jalen Hurts, they have improved dramatically from the beginning of the season. I thought that they were going to carry over from their woes at the end of last season and have a poor start to the season, which they did. But since their 1-2 start, they have won 5 games in a row. Including a pretty tough overall schedule. So the Eagles have been playing well. Saquon Barkley has been a phenomenal addition to the team. Overall, most of the offense didn't need to do much this week. A couple players were able to, A.J. Brown and Jalen Harris were able to control the majority of the game, and they were able to win 28-27. 34-6 over the Cowboys. Not much was needed in order to beat the Cowboys this week. Moving on to the Bills. The Bills, they won their game. There isn't really a whole lot to say for this week. I mean, they weren't playing anybody impressive. Buffalo is now 8-2. Again, they haven't had the hardest schedule in the world. So the 8-2 record is an impressive record, but this week they beat the Colts. Their hardest games are coming up. They got Kansas City next week. After that, they got the 49ers, they got the Rams, they got the Lions, and then they got the Patriots and Jets. So they have their next 4 weeks are the hardest stretch of their season. We'll see if they come out of that with 11-3 or 10-4 or 12-2. If they come out 12-2, they could be the best team in the league. If they come out 10-4, then they might not be contending this season. Moving on to the Packers. The Packers are number 6. They did lose a spot this week, even though they were on bye. That's simply because I had underrated one of the teams that was below them. And yeah. Finally, we got the NFL's elite. At number 5, we got the Minnesota Vikings. At number 4, we have the Pittsburgh Steelers. At number 3, we have the Baltimore Ravens. At number 2, we have the Kansas City Chiefs. And at number 1, we have the Detroit Lions. The Lions were finally able to find their offensive stride in the second half. They're down 23-7 to the Texans, and they were able to pull it out for the victory to continue their winning streak and improve to 8-1. 8-1 obviously is not as good as 9-0, but the Chiefs just don't seem like they deserve to have a 9-0 record right now. There's a couple of games at the beginning of the season that were controversial with penalty calls and refs. This week, obviously, they did not play well against the Broncos. They were saved at the end by a blocked field goal. But overall, the Broncos honestly outplayed Kansas City this week. Patrick Mahomes is having a horrendous season. He has almost as many interceptions as touchdowns. And Kansas City does not look like a 9-0 team. The Lions are much more balanced. They're much more efficient offensively. And they have almost as good of a defense as Kansas City. The Ravens are at 3. They were able to pull out their victory against the Bengals this week. They lost a couple weeks ago to the Browns in an upsetting loss for them. But for the most part, they've been very consistent this season after starting off 0-2. They've won 6 of their last 7 games, and they're playing good football. Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson are both in the MVP conversation, and the Ravens are probably the most balanced team in the top 5. Number 4 is the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Steelers have improved to 8-2. Yes, the Steelers. Either 8-2 or 7-2. Russell Wilson has taken over the last 3 weeks, and with Russell Wilson at quarterback, the Steelers have scored 37, 28, and 27 points respectively. They beat Washington this week, which was their first kind of showing against a top 10 team with Russell Wilson at quarterback. They were able to get it done. I love seeing Russell Wilson with this team. I love seeing Russell Wilson with Mike Tomlin. This team looks like a contending team. Mike Tomlin's kind of kept the Steelers in limbo over the last few years, trying to see if he can get anything out of these borderline playoff teams. It hasn't been able to work out. This year with Russell Wilson, if Russell Wilson has some good playoff games, I think that the Steelers have a potential to make it to the Super Bowl or potentially even win it with Russell Wilson. This is a contending team. They rely on their defense, but if their offense can score 30 points a week with their defense being a top defense in the league, then that's a dangerous combination. At number 5, we have the Minnesota Vikings. The Vikings have not lost a whole bunch of games. They're 7-2. They're playing solid football, or 8-2. They're playing solid football. They did win this week against the Jaguars, but it was not an impressive victory. The major thing that I have a concern with is that Sam Darnold has really fallen off from the start of the season. He does not look like he did at the beginning of the year, and I don't think that Sam Darnold is going to ramp it back up. I think that we've seen the best of Sam Darnold, and now it's just kind of, they're just trying to stay in it until the playoffs, right? And then in the playoffs, they're going to figure it out. But right now, Sam Darnold is not playing good football. The Vikings offensively look terrible. Their defense is carrying them, and they're winning games, but it's not pretty. So that's why the Vikings are at number 5. So thank you guys for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you're new. I do power rankings on the channel every single week. Hopefully over the next couple weeks I'll be able to do a little bit more content in terms of other videos, but for right now, the power rankings are my priority. So thank you guys for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed. I'll see you guys all in the next one. Peace.